I'm Larry Jewell from the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group. I'd like to thank you all for attending our weekly Aging with Pride discussion group for GLBTQ 2S plus seniors and allies. Thanks as well to our partners, SAGE and Pride Center of Edmonton. And before I introduce our speaker, I must acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 6 territory and respect the history, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Nations people of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our community. Our speaker today then is Dawn Carter, Executive Director of Edmonton Pride Center. Dawn brings to this position her experience as a writer, educator, performance poet, public speaker, entrepreneur, and activist of Caribbean heritage. She believes in justice and empowerment. A galvanizing moment for her was the firing of Delwyn Green from his university post simply because he was gay. Dawn was then a student there and wrote an editorial that called out campus-wide misogyny and rallied people to confront the issue. She has collaborated with Altview, Youth Rights Society of Canada, the Anderson Career Training Institute, and the African Center. She is a published writer whose work has appeared in an anthology of Black writers from the Canadian prairies. She is inspired by her late cousin Ian and by Open Blue Skies, which we have today. So thank you for being here with us, Dawn, and over to you.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction, Larry. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I just thank all of you for coming to this presentation. And yeah, at the end when I said I was, when Larry had mentioned that I was inspired by my cousin Ian in Blue Skies. My cousin Ian was gay in the Caribbean, and was just a very, very sweet soul. And he had passed away from AIDS in the mid-90s. So I miss him a lot. And when I took this role, and I actually meditated my first day just to kind of get myself centered. And who popped up in my consciousness? It was Ian, someone who I hadn't thought about in a few years. And it just made me think, you know what? I'm taking the right role. I'll be in the right place. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, so just going to share my screen and on to the presentation. So this is just a modification of a presentation that I had given as part of a network summit. There were a number of 2S LGBTQ plus organizations who had started getting together to just talk about what we can do to build a more inclusive community for ourselves, and also just thinking about what Pride would look like as well as part of our discussions. And so the title of that talk was called Moving Forward Together. And I thought that that would also be an appropriate theme for today as well, because the Pride Center of Edmonton is a small organization that serves a huge, varied populace of people. And so what I've been spending my time doing and is like really thinking about building trust and building community. And I think trust has been an issue over the last few years, and I wanted to restore the trust that people would have in the Pride Center, and also building community. So not approaching the Pride Center as like the center, the be all and end all when it comes to to us LGBTQ plus serving organizations in the city, but that we are part of a greater whole, including the Edmonton Pride Seniors group and Altview and Edmonton Two Spirit Society and Isthmus, and all of these like grassroots organizations like Shades of Color and Rarican now. So my thoughts were, how do I build trust? How do I build community? So I just want to say thank you to Estefan Cortes Vargas, the previous director before me. Estefan had the experience of running the center just as COVID was starting to hit us. And really the work that he did, keeping the doors open, allowed me to be here today. And I also like to thank Sitara Fernando, who is the former interim director last summer. After Esteban departed, I told the board that I pretty much needed some time to kind of get my own gears in order because I hadn't been like fully out to my family, and this position was like a very public one. And so I had a lot to think about and just a lot of preparation to do, like just mentally for this role. And so Sitara, I thank her for the work that she did over the summer, just keeping things going until I started in October of last year. So I thought I'd throw in some interesting pictures and quotes. So I like this quote: "The point is to get your work done, and your work is to change the world." And I think that's the reason why we're here today. And it's a picture of Bayard Rustin from the States, who I always like to say, if there wasn't such discrimination against LGBTQ plus people in America, we probably would be celebrating Bayard Rustin Day instead of Martin Luther King Day. So I just wanted to just do a quick overview of our PCE superstars. So of course, there's me. If you ever call or email, you will reach Antavia Roberts, our administrative officer. SJ Lafayette is our operations manager. And this is a new role at the center because we've realized that we've inherited a history, and how can we change that history moving into the future so that anyone in executive roles doesn't burn out, which seemed to be a trend over the last number of years. So as I'm the ED, SJ handles the operational pieces, and it's been wonderful to have this this division of labor when it comes to the leadership team. We also have Shandi Kowalchuk, who is our youth programs director, Dami Oladosu, who is our outreach coordinator, social media, Kim Loreen, of course, who is on this call, doing translation, our seniors program coordinator, and Cassandra McKenzie, our youth coordinator. And I also just wanted to mention some goodbyes and gratitude to people that you may have come across in the last year if you've contacted the center. So Kayla Walton, who was our program manager for 3 years, she also handled our youth program, so she was the director for that. Jessie Murray, Cindy Rivers, Jamili Bacanali, Dominique White, Sitara Fernando, and Jason Garcia. So we had a lot of lessons to learn, and what we really learned was we needed to be supportive, even to the most marginalized in our community here in the city. And so part of being responsive and being supportive is supporting our team to support others. So we've embarked on a very intensive training regimen. So we've all taken mental health first aid, we've taken naloxone training, the dynamics of HIV through HIV Edmonton, learning about trauma-informed practice, first aid, bystander intervention, and so much more. So upcoming for us will be assist training, so suicide prevention training, and we hope to get some harm reduction on the books as well. Just whatever we can do to make sure that everyone is well equipped to do the work here. Some of the things that we've also done in this past year was allyship and empowerment workshops. The Empowered Allies workshops had amazing uptake and feedback. And what we've also taken from these workshops is revising the format and offerings from QT BIPOC people, and that we could use help from our partners to help promote the QT BIPOC sessions once they're up and running again. So we had some funds that we could that we had left to spend, and it's like, well, let's put them towards these workshops and see what happens. And what was great about this piece is that we had a lot of community members say we were either at the Pride Parade or we heard that things had happened at the Pride Center, and we were feeling helpless, and we just wanted to know how to help and how to unpack our emotions around what happened. How can we do better? And so this allyship, empowering allies, was just a wonderful piece. And when we had QT BIPOC people show up, it was wonderful to have them kind of have a safe space to unpack their own feelings, and especially around COVID-19 as well. This was a really important piece to have. So COVID has impacted the center quite a lot. So a lot of the community groups have had to basically stop running because we couldn't have all of these people in the Pride Center just with the virus going around. So what we still had going was information and referral, so people could call or email the Pride Center for resources. And we also have our free therapy program, which is our drop-in single session counseling through the Family Center. And as far as I know, the Family Center also works with SAGE as well. So I am very pleased that for seniors, there is some counseling available there. So we also, this is something that I learned, is that we have a strong relationship with our refugees and newcomers and the community. And so we've partnered with EMCN over the last 4 years, actually, to partner with 2S LGBTQ plus newcomers who have come to Canada. And one thing that I've learned about people in this process of being a refugee or a newcomer is that they, even though they leave countries where they are endangered from actions by family and friends, they have the coverage of citizenship. But when they come to Canada, they don't have that citizenship anymore. They are stateless. They really don't have a lot of rights. And so it's very difficult to adjust, whether you're coming from Eastern Europe or you're coming from the Caribbean or you're coming from the Middle East. There's so much that is involved in the process of getting here, because you may not traverse just one country, you may go across several to get to Canada. There's the cultural adjustment, and there's also, depending on what you look like, encountering discrimination, based in racism as well. So a number of our refugees and newcomers take part in our counseling programs. From the Pride Center's perspective, we also write support letters for refugee claimants. So we write letters supporting refugee claims for those people who have established a relationship with the center. So we also help arrivals find resources and a sense of community through EMCN. And there is an independent group that is run by some people from EMCN. It has been running for 4 years, and with independent funding, which I think is amazing. So it's Friday night online meetups, and when they were not meeting online, they would go and just do physical activities. And I believe when there was that brief gap in the summer, one of the things that the group did was go to the aerial park, which I think is pretty amazing. So I'm going to talk a bit about our youth program. So we also have our youth program as well. So information and referral, drop-in counseling, and our youth program, which we call Queer Out, which is on Wednesdays. And it is split into 2 groups, so ages 13 to 17 and 18 to 24. So there's a number of different activities. Over the past year, we've sent out care packages to the youth. I wish I had a picture. They just got a whole bunch of just really neat goodies. And yeah, that program has been continuing throughout COVID. It is on Discord. And what we've noticed is that a lot of the youth that have been attending are from out of town. They're not necessarily from Edmonton. And so once we get into in-person programming, we have to think about how are we going to accommodate those young people who are living out of town. So we'll most likely move to a hybrid model where we are having activities and having some kind of a video presence for those. So we also had Aging with Pride. Aging with Pride ended, the first iteration of Aging with Pride, I should say, ended in February of this year. But we do have some COVID support. So we do have bus tickets for anybody who needs them. We have taxi vouchers for anyone who needs to buy groceries or get to appointments. And we also do have food gift cards. So if anyone is in need, or if you do know anyone who is in need, please contact the Pride Center so that we can get these supports out to them. We've also had practicum students, and this is something that has happened over time. So some of the projects that our students did was developing a community group policy. So we at the center normally have community groups that are run by skilled volunteers, but we didn't have a policy around how these groups would operate. And so we've developed a community group policy, and we had the students create a support letter toolkit. One thing that we've realized that we need to have is legacy documents, so that anybody coming into the Pride Center as a new employee or a new practicum student would have the tools that they need to complete their work successfully. And renovations. So we are still under renovations right now. I wonder, I might be able to take you on a quick tour. So for renovations, we are at the stage where our painting has been complete. We have offices built in the back area. Our youth space is it's a little crowded right now, but we're making some changes to that space as well. We are waiting for flooring to come in, and we're waiting for trim work. We're rebuilding our library. That's going to be happening soon, and we're hoping, since we've been on a bit of a roll since the summer, that our renovations would be done sometime in November, December at the very latest. We had hoped that this would happen, or this would have been completed in October, so that we could celebrate our 50th anniversary, but those celebrations are going to have to wait until next year. Just to talk a little bit about executive and board activities. We've been working on our strategic planning, looking at an anti-racist, anti-oppression, anti-colonial framework that is inclusive because of so many members that we serve from different age groups, backgrounds, experiences, and such. We reviewed our bylaws. Actually, we've submitted them just recently. So we reviewed our bylaws to reduce harm, stabilize the organization, and give power to our members. So as part of the bylaws, new board members can be asked to come aboard at any time of the year instead of at the AGM. And we've made all memberships voting memberships, so everyone has the power to vote. We've also looked at just tapping into community and just seeing what they've been doing. So we sent out an EPS survey to the community at large around interactions with law enforcement. And we also sent out strategic planning surveys to staff, board, community members, and community partners as well, just to give us an idea of where we're at as a baseline and what we can do in the future. Other focus areas, we're looking at mental health, like frontline support. So we've been talking to CMHA about a pilot program that goes beyond our drop-in single session counseling program with social workers and a phone-in program. So from those discussions, they've actually approached ISMIS to start Brightline, which is fantastic. And we have a customized training program for our frontline staff that is built specially for us so that we can serve our community better. There's 2S LGBTQ+ refugee and newcomer training. So we signed an MOU with the Center for Newcomers in Calgary to expand our training, our education offerings. So they have a sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression training modules that are around the needs of 2S LGBTQ+ newcomers. We're partnering with EMCN. What we want to do is to have an empowerment piece in there where we're setting this up as a mentorship program for refugees and newcomers to become educators through this program. And of course, our information and referrals, making sure our community members are connected to the right resources in a timely manner. Let me see. So for seniors and transgender programming. So in development, aging with pride. So we are working with EPSG and SAGE to develop sustainable seniors programming. And I'm pleased to say that this is the first time EPSG, SAGE, and PCE connected, and we actually had a face-to-face meeting. We had our masks on, but it's still face-to-face. And I'm hoping to have more meetings like that with different community organizations so that they know that we're here. We're here, we're queer, we're not going anywhere, but that we're also here to partner as well. Our transgender programs, we are in the process of revamping our transgender programming, and we know that this is a significant gap. So we would like to be in the process of recruiting volunteers to help with this programming. What do we need? What's missing? What are the gaps? That kind of thing. And we also have a grant for a volunteer training program. And through that, we are creating, try to get out of the sun here, or out of the shadow. We're creating modules for a comprehensive volunteer program to develop the best volunteers ever who can work anywhere. So there will be decolonization modules, anti-racism, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, code of conduct, that kind of thing. And so what we're hoping is that from an environmental scan, gathering what our different community organizations need, we would be able to send volunteers their way who are trained through our program. I included this quote, "No pride for some of us without liberation for all of us." And so part of what I've been doing to, again, build those connections and relationships is I bring the network to the table. And I believe that this is a new direction for the Pride Center. So the Pride Center is pretty much, and I have said this in a number of different meetings with different organizations and that reach out to us, or politicians, Pride Center really is kind of like low-hanging fruit. It's the one organization everybody knows to ask questions of, to ask emotional labor of. And the Pride Center does not speak for everyone, and I make sure that that's clear. And whenever the Pride Center has been invited to contribute time, resources, expertise, input, I bring the group along. So we've had a group meeting with Edmonton Police Services. I've involved Silverskate had approached us about Pride themed events, and I made sure that the network was involved in this discussion. We've also been in contact from the Edmonton International Airport. And one thing that I will be doing is letting them know that, okay, we want to look at being an inclusive airport, an inclusive gateway. How can we bring our my other network partners to be involved in this process? So how does Edmonton International Airport look when you are a gay senior coming off the plane? How welcome are you going to feel? Or if you're transgender, or if you are queer, trans, Black, Indigenous person of color, how are you going to feel when you come into the airport, coming into the rest of the city? What's in Edmonton for you? So we've been having some discussions around that. And also the Edmonton Fire Rescue Services. They reached out to us in the summer and put on, what was it now? I can't remember. It was a camp. It was a 2-day weekend camp, and community members were invited to actually really just kind of be firefighters for the weekend. And they actually did rappelling and like crawled through smoky enclosed spaces, wore the masks and equipment. And so what Edmonton Fire is trying to do is to improve their recruitment process to include to us LGBTQ plus people. Just as a statistic, there's 2,000 people on the force. 8 of those are women, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are lesbian. So Edmonton Fire has a lot of work to do there. So just going back to the quote that I had shared earlier. So we're not free until we are all free. And that's something that I believe so much. So what does liberation look like? How do we liberate ourselves and our community together? And how do we imagine possibilities? Emotionally, physically, sexually, economically, in an anti-racist way, in an anti-oppressive way, in an anti-ageist way, which is something that I'm very, very conscious of these days, being a woman in my mid-50s, anti-ableist, and trauma-informed. Whoops. So getting to 50 years of Pride. So I don't know if a lot of you know it, but 2021 is the 50th anniversary of the Pride Center of Edmonton. And I happened to just discover that, like just through going through different documents and looking on our website. And our website says, The Pride Center began as GATE in 1971 at the University of Alberta as a student group. And here we are, 50 years later. And I think this is definitely a time that we definitely need to mark. So if you don't know where the Pride Center is, and credits to Shane Allen for Bennett for his photos. So we are located downtown, like directly behind Grant McEwen. We're on the second floor, but we have our main doors that you could go into. And when I think about what the Pride Center could be in, going into the future, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but there is a movie on Netflix called Jules Catch One. And this is a picture of Catch One. It was a nightclub in Los Angeles, and it had closed after 40 years. But it wasn't just a nightclub. Jewel Thea Williams created a place of belonging, safety, community, and healing. So initially, it had started out as a nightclub for QT BIPOC people to go to and just feel safe and have a good time. And then it was a place that everybody went to. And it reminds me of like some of the clubs here in Edmonton. It's like, this is a place for you and your friends. So you had Madonna showing up here, you had Sandra Bernhardt, you had like everybody who is everybody came and felt comfortable, safe, and connected. And Catch One actually grew into more than just being a club. So Jill Thea Williams became an acupuncturist. And so part of the building was dedicated to being a clinic. So she would deliver acupuncture services there. And if you watch the movie, you'll see that there's this really nice waiting room, and it's just really comfortable and cozy with, like cozy chairs and people just feeling safe. That's what I want to see for the Pride Center of Edmonton. And this is a quote from Jewel. I would love to see those of you that are young, teenagers or younger, know that we were here to make it easier for you. I believe this is the mission. Take advantage of it. Learn as much as you can about what it is that we did. So I think it is very critical that the young folks know that we are here for them. And I hope that they know that they are also here for us too, to keep us alive and keep our imaginations going and imagining possibilities for what the Pride Center could be in the future. So I thought this quote was really good to have. We should indeed keep calm in the face of difference and live our lives in a state of inclusion and wonder at the diversity of humanity. And I think being in Edmonton at this time, we see this wonderful diversity of humanity here. And I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. Thank you for listening.
If there are questions or comments, we'll throw the floor open now.
All right, questions. Are they in the chat? Or Larry, would you mind reading out the questions to me?
Happy to do the. I don't see any questions in the chat room. Anyone who wishes to ask a question can do so either in person or in the chat room. So I will leave that there. Michael, it looks like you have
Yes.
a question.
Well, I actually have a comment. Thanks, yeah, more of a comment. First of all, Dawn, thanks very much. I think the presentation not only was well done, but very informative. I appreciate kind of the status of where things are today, as well as the major kinds of efforts, and also what you're hoping for the future. Because as you said, they at the beginning, they were trying to look forward. And I think Edmonton Pride Senior Group was trying to look forward as well, perhaps in a slightly different way, kind of thing in that too. So I appreciate very much what you had to say, and thank you for the presentation. It was really excellent.
Thank you, Michael, and you're welcome.
But, and thank you from me as well, Don. I would like to welcome Robert Clipperton from Saskatoon's 55 plus LGBT coffee group. So let me say welcome to you, and we're delighted to see you here. This program actually partially began with the Saskatoon component in the Tri-Cities project. So again, welcome. Dawn or Kim can perhaps answer Roy's question about the contact number for the Pride Center.
Yes, the phone number, I'll put it in the chat. It is 780-488-3234.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
You're welcome. And yes, just a reminder that the phone lines are open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 o'clock onwards.
Oh, John, I had a question for you.
Blair.
Yeah, sorry. John, I was wondering, with all the programs and services that you're providing, what's the main ways that our community, wherever part of the community they're from, hear about your services or know about the Pride Center? What ways do you think is the most common ways?
Yeah, so we've been really fortunate to have some funding for to hire a social media coordinator. So we started like intensifying our social media when I started. That was one thing that I wanted to get out there, was to get past that impression that nobody knows about the Pride Center. Nobody knows what we're doing. So social media was one thing that I focused on right away. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're also on Twitter. We also have a newsletter that goes out twice a month. So one is for events, the other one is for like community updates and information. So that's how we stay in touch with people. And our followers have been growing every single month. More and more and more people are joining our mailing lists. More and more people are following us, and they're spreading the word too, which is really fantastic. And I would also say too that another way that the word is getting around about the Pride Center is all of you. Because if you're getting invitations, if you're getting posters for, at least with Aging with Pride, you can share those out. And you're also welcome to be on our mailing list if you're not on it already, so that you can get our newsletters and share those out as well. So thank you, Blair.
Eric.
Listen, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing and this initiative going forward. But in the past, there has been a perception that the Pride Center is focused solely on youth and youth programming. And I appreciate this effort to try to be more inclusive for people of other ages. But I'm wondering if things can be done, for example, on the Facebook, on your social media feeds, occasionally putting in articles from Sage USA, which is a huge organization, has got a lot of resources and so on. And I think, sort of including information about that, including information about senior centers in Edmonton, those sorts of things will help dispel that feeling that the Pride Center is only interested in youth programming. So I just wanted to throw that out as a suggestion. I really appreciate the work that you're doing and the efforts to try to involve the queer senior community. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Eric. And those are great suggestions. I don't think that we do have enough seniors content, and like personally, I wouldn't have even realized where to go for that. I do subscribe to some newsletters in the city, so definitely Sages, and there's the Seniors Council, Edmonton Seniors Council. Eric?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So SAGE in the United States is it used to be for the advancement of gays and lesbians. I don't know, but it's a fantastic resource. It's very different than SAGE in Edmonton. SAGE in Edmonton is the Seniors Association of Greater Edmonton. The Edmonton Seniors Coordinating Council is an overriding coordination body for all of the senior serving organizations in Edmonton. And then the last thing I thought of afterwards was just throwing in a suggestion in terms of education, perhaps educating the younger LGBTQ community about seniors, some of the issues that they face, the reluctance to seek medical, the reason why reluctance to seek medical assistance, the reason why self-closeting is the default position, the reason why this. I think anytime that I've talked to a group of younger folks and explained this, there's always been a holy cow, we had no idea. So I think that might be a part of an education process for perhaps Queer Out or something. Anyways, all those are just suggestions, but if you want, you can ask your social media person to get a hold of me. I can hook them up with plenty of links for other organizations, again, serving seniors. I don't want to become, not trying to push the Pride Center to become only seniors, but I think having some more senior information in your output would be very helpful in building credibility in the community. Thanks very much for what you're doing.
Thanks, Eric. And yes, I'll connect you to our social media person, definitely. Because I know I would appreciate those links, and being and I think it's really important to share those things as well. And the education piece, I think it would be really great to maybe connect some of you with our youth team to do your presentation. Just we could see what we could do, because they're going to be seniors too. I'm going to be a senior. I'm in my mid 50s already, and I'm starting to think about a few things. Where am I going to live? Who's going to take care of me? All of these, all of these different concerns, right? Yeah. So I'll definitely look into that. Any other questions? Murray, you had a question. Hi, Murray.
Two questions from the chat room.
Oh, okay.
One more general about whether Pride Center of Edmonton has considered presenting to schools, and then a very specific question about whether or not the Pride Center has queer books and movies available for loan.
So we have considered presenting to schools. We just don't have the capacity right now. And that is one thing that I would like to build into our strategic plan and our strategy, actually. We were in a deficit, $100,000 deficit in 2019. We're in good graces because of the COVID funding. But what happens after that, after the COVID funding runs out? So I would like to develop our education program so that it is self-sustaining. I'll have to figure out how that works. And, going into schools would be a possibility once we actually get to that point. We have to do all this foundational policy work before we even get to that point. There was another question there as well, right? Sorry.
The second question was specifically about whether you have queer books and movies for loan.
Oh, wow. Did you know that the Pride Center of Edmonton has the largest queer library in Western Canada? that's what we have. So right now, our library is in boxes because of the renovations. However, we do have boxes that we were going to give away to folks. So if you're interested in a box of books, we'll be happy to, have you come and pick up a box, or we can arrange for a box to be dropped off for you. But we have about 1,000 books to give away, and the Ashbourne still has to pick up a few boxes. So, and yes, if you are interested in getting some new materials, we would be happy to do that. Just let us know.
Murray.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to see people I haven't seen for a couple of years, for God's sakes. First of all, Dawn, thank you for your stewardship through these difficult times. It's, not just COVID, but all of the political ramifications that we've dealt with in the last few years. Really appreciate the work that you and your team are doing. Two things. One, how can the group of us help the Pride Center reach some of your goals? And the second, I just want to let everybody know, the last few months I've been working on a podcast with the Edmonton Heritage Council and the Alberta Labour History Institute, all about the Delwyn Vren case. So we've taken this epic 7-year battle with our provincial government, and we're in the process of digesting that into about a 55-minute podcast that will be going out on the air on CKUA mid-November. I can provide you with the link when that all comes together, but we've got Sheila Greco and Lyle Caney and Julie Lloyd, all of the people that were heavily involved. That former city councillor, what was that guy's name? Michael Fair, he's involved in it as well. So it was a lot of fun putting that thing together. And I think it's going to be a tremendous educational tool, not just for our fabulous community, but for the community at large in the equality rights seeking, and in terms of how did that happen and how did we get that done? And it was all done with allies, and certainly all of the people I see on this screen were a part of that as well. So keep up the good work, and I look forward to having coffee or lunch with you sometime in the future, Dawn.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it too. Yes, and Delwyn's case, it was, I was maybe 22, a mature student. It was like 22.
I had black hair.
And yeah, Delwyn was the TA for my chemistry class.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah. And he made chemistry fun. He was so gentle and kind. And it was just a shock when everything just kind of blew up. It's like he was there and all of a sudden he was gone. And I'm happy to say that whenever I have seen him over the years, he remembers me. So it's pretty neat. What can you do to help support us? Wow, that's a good question. Send us money. No. But really, yeah, I would say that. I would say, tell people about the Pride Center. That we're here. No, we're not offering our education as we would like to right now. We're referring that to ISMIS, but until we get our ducks in a row. But anybody looking for resources, anybody looking for that safe space, we're here. It's a little difficult with this transition, with the renovations, with COVID, but we're so excited to be having our doors open again and having people come. So I think right now that's probably a hard question to answer. Like, what could you do? I think once our doors are open and our programming is in person and things get going again, I think that would be a much better conversation to have at that time. But right now, share our social media, share our newsletters, and just talk about how great we are. I think that would help. Talk to your friends with money.
Thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome. And thank you, Marie.
You're welcome.
Blair, did you have a second question?
Yes, so it's more a comment on, you were talking about your library, 1,000 items. I'm wondering if you thought of, once you get the library up onto the shelves and out of the boxes and so on, if you've looked at strategies to get them not just given away, but people borrowing them. I've given a number of books to to your library over the years, but when I was in there, I never saw anybody, I don't know if they didn't even know it was there or taking them out. I know as a young man coming out, books on gay themes at the library was a huge issue for me. And so I'd go through, online or through the stacks trying to find them. And I read a lot of the key authors, which I think a lot of the young people probably don't know about, and be very relevant for their lives. So I was wondering if you've thought about some strategies to make sure those books, and if you got DVDs, I know people don't watch DVDs much anymore. If you got some strategies to make especially youth aware of those books and how they can borrow them.
I haven't put my mind to that yet, but that definitely makes sense. Like the library is set up to for people to borrow books. We're just implementing a scanning system. And one thing that I do want to do is actually register our library with the Library Association of Canada so that we can be recognized as a library and that we can get some of the perks that go with that. Sorry, I just saw in the chat Estella, a senior. I think she's getting there. She's got a little gray around the eyes. She's 7 years old. Is that seniors? Dog age? I don't know. She's probably middle-aged, I think, like me. Yeah. So, but yeah, those are definitely good thoughts around the library. I know that we're adding to it, but you're right. There are those historical books. I think we had found like a first edition James Baldwin or something in one of the boxes. So there's definitely some classics in there. So I think that's something that we'll promote with the youth. And I, just from my own experience, like just working with queer youth, I'm sure once they're in the space and they actually see the books, they'll be on like a main wall, they would be totally willing to borrow some stuff. Oh, I'm just gonna give y'all a quick tour if I can.
Of course, we have 6 minutes left in our hour.
Okay, so this is kind of like the back of the center. Not really a lot going on, but the paint is different. Our lighting is different now, as you can see. So we have like warmer lighting.
I gotta go. See you later, folks.
Bye, Murray.
Thank you, Murray. Murray will be our speaker in 2 weeks' time with Jackie Ford.
And we have offices that we're building in the back. But this will all look really great once we get all the trim work done, all our doors and windows put in. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I only have 2% left on my laptop.
Okay, well, we have one final question from Joan, which is about are there volunteering opportunities at Pride Center?
Not just yet. We're wanting to develop our program first, like our education program for volunteers, but there is a casino coming up on December 21st and 22nd. So if you are interested in volunteering, you can always call us 780-488-3234, or you can email us at hello@pridecenterofedmonton.ca.
and the volunteer, and for the casino requires volunteer services, certainly. Are there
Definitely.
any other questions that I've missed or comments on anyone, from anyone? And if not, I really want to thank Dawn for what really was a very thoughtful, wide-ranging talk and a wide-ranging and I think very optimistic discussion. So thank you all. I'd like also specifically to thank Kim for his technical assistance and for the signing. Thanks, Kim. I hope we'll see you all again next week when our speaker will be Blair McKinnon, who is not on my screen right there. He is, who will give an overview of the housing project for GLBTQ2+ seniors and allies that Edmonton Pride Seniors Group has been working very vigorously on. I'd like to ask a further favor, which is we will be sending you out an evaluation questionnaire. It's short, it's sweet. Please, please fill it out and return it to us. Your opinions are critical for our future planning for these programs. For the programs, which for the moment are online only, but will, when we are able, also have an in-person component. We ask that you pre-register for this, and you can contact us at agingwithpride@pridecenterofedmonton.ca. And I saw one final question, which I'm just getting into the chat box, which says, thank you. Robert asked about getting information to the group in Saskatoon, so you can perhaps link up there. And Dawn, I see you've already put on the email address. So let me give my personal thanks and turn the meeting over to our host.